Episode 91, shout out my birth year, of Lights, Thunder, Action is in your ear canals. We are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Ethan Simmie of 15 Minutes of Marvel, and we're going to be diving into Miss Marvel, Episode 4, titled Seeing Red, and The Boys, Episode 7. The title is so long, I'm making up my own. We're calling it Soldier Boy Baby. We'll see you after the jump. Welcome to
LTA with
TCR
and JRB.
This is where the fun begins.
You're just not thinking fourth dimensional.
Flourish.
Peter 03.
Num num.
I'm vengeance.
What? Did we just become best friends?
Yup. I love you guys.
Hold on to your butts.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
Dude, I almost had you.
To that I say, all right.
Good morning, world. It is July 3rd. Sunday Funday is here, and it is time for your, I suppose, Sunday morning pick-me-up where three Thunder buddies dive into all things Marvel, DC, pop culture IP, and the latest happenings in the film industry.
Absolutely. Today's show, we have a special 4th of July weekend extravaganza. We'll be talking more Miss Marvel that we've been following week to week. And we'll also be covering the penultimate episode of season 3 of The Boys and get you nice and hyped for the finale of the 3rd season. But before we do that, I think we have to introduce someone pretty great that's coming back. But first, where can everybody find us, Tom?
We are live beaming directly into your homes and phones via our LightsThunderAction Facebook and the HWWS WebTV channel on Twitter and YouTube. All of those links can be found at Linktree.com/LightsThunderAction. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to view the live version of our show where you can interact with us. But if you don't want to look at our beautiful bearded baby boy faces, but you want to listen to our beautiful bearded baby boy voices, JRB,
then you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Good Pod, and Spotify. Be sure to follow and subscribe while you're there. Leave us a 5-star review and ask us a question in that review, and we'll bring it right here on the show and answer it.
Absolutely. And without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, coming from the, I don't know, what is it, like 8 a.m. over there, out there in the Pacific Northwest, the host of 15 Minutes of Marvel, one of the many hosts of 24 Minutes of A24, Ethan Simmie.
What's up, boys? I'm so excited to be here. I can honestly say I've never been part of a podcast this early my time before, and there is no better topic that I would rather talk about to start my Sunday off than the absolute hero-gasm of The Boys, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Real fast. How you doing, Ethan? Like, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. You know, I'm doing pretty good, honestly. I got in a solid 12-mile trail run yesterday, so I'm feeling a little on the tired side this morning, but I'm feeling good. My running schedule is picking up a little bit. It's been a week for movies for me personally. I always try to watch a lot of movies in the week. You guys know this. And I talk about them on TikTok, but I've been watching Better Call Saul and I've been catching up on The Boys. I've been doing a lot of TV watching this week. So that's kind of where I'm at, but I'm feeling good.
Yeah, you binged The Boys season 3, and I honestly don't know how your mind is still inside of your brain. Like, I feel like you'd be a little bit more like Irving, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. JRB, happy Sunday, man. How you doing?
Happy Sunday. Yeah, happy Independence Day weekend here in the States. Do either of you guys have anything exciting going on? Ethan, I know you said you're taking a trip soon.
Yeah, we are jetting off, my wife and I and my 2 little girls and mother-in-law. So we got grandma coming with us. We're going to Kauai here in about 5 days. So very excited. We're going to be spending 2 weeks on the island, hanging out at some beaches, eating some food, just hanging out in the good weather. So that's kind of what we're prepping for. We don't have a lot of plans this weekend. We'll get together with a friend and you know, do a little barbecue. But yeah, just chilling until we hit the plane.
Wow,
love it.
That's
Absolutely
so cool.
Love it.
I love in Thunder. it real fast in the comments. Our good friend, producer of this show, David Thompson, hanging out. He says, "Grab your coffee, people!" with 3 exclamation points. He's way more hyped than me at this hour. He also says, "A nice mug." Yeah, it's got David's beautiful bearded and unbearded face, my beautiful bearded face, designed by the one and only Terry McIver, also a legend and a myth, allegedly a man. Just kidding, Terry. What's up, buddy? And he also says, "Ethan!" Again, with 3 exclamation point. Go away. Yeah. So without further ado, let's just go right on into the calmest topic that we have today, and that is Miss Marvel episode 4, Seeing Red. Real fast, starting off, thoughts and feelings. Like how I heard people are a little mixed on this episode in the Twitter sphere, which is crazy because I don't want to say it's my favorite episode, but man, did they get to some character stuff that I love. What about you, Ethan?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Miss Marvel. I was lucky enough to interview Anjali Bhimani, who plays Auntie Ruby, last week on my podcast, and talk to her about the show. So I've been a big fan of the show so far. I think it's one of the better character studies that we've gotten in terms of a whole world and a whole culture and a whole family of one of our heroes. Episode 4, though, I don't know if it's because I just came off of 3 hours of The Boys within like the 6 hours prior to watching this, or if I was really tired because I started like 10 o'clock at night. It just didn't like hit the same for me. I felt like it was kind of a little bit of a pace step back. I felt like we were doing a lot of exploring into new things and kind of leaving Kamala in the dust a little bit of her and her like personal journey. I know a lot of our episodes so far, we've been focused on like her journey with her powers. And I know we get that for a couple minutes in this one, but I just feel like we brought in so many things and we were so worried about her connection to her family and the train and all of these things that I felt like the pacing was just a little bit off. And I left the episode because it's an episode 4, right? And like MCU TV is known for like that's the episode. Like episode 4 is going to lead you into the back 2, and that's going to be a big deal. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I get it. I understand where we're at, but like it wasn't a home run for me personally. And I think maybe that's because of the red daggers, but we will talk about the red daggers.
We will talk about the red daggers indeed and in full, and seeing red again. JRB. Oh, what a song, by the way. Shout out Chevelle. JRB, what did you think about episode 4?
I think I'm on the same page as Ethan. I think this episode, it took us out of a couple things, but it was done purposefully. I like that we got to travel to a different location. I like that it's not in the States and that we're seeing something that's more rooted in, the culture that we're studying. We're not seeing it in the, melting pot or mosaic, if you will, of the United States. We're seeing it, in its natural habitat, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it's cool to finally get to see the culture, living and breathing, and having Kamala inserted into it, where she's actually the outsider now, or she's the American who doesn't really know everything that's going on. So it's kind of cool that there's levels to this, or she is teaching people about what she's doing, but then she's also being taught furthermore how to live in the, the religion and the culture that she's in. I love the introduction of the red daggers. I thought it was maybe a little bit rushed. But I like the time that we got to spend with them. I'm a little hesitant on, I guess, where Kamala's going as a hero at this point. It seems like maybe she joined the Red Daggers just so she could be rooted in, something that's more culturally her speed, while also maybe joining up with the Avengers later on. That could be the connection they need to that part of the world. Overall, I loved how much we got to learn. And although not everything hit for me, the cliffhanger at the end was amazing. Kamala's in a totally unknown spot. We don't even know if she's living in a dream or if it's an alternate dimension, or maybe she even time traveled. We really don't know at this point. But yeah, I think it makes a lot of really interesting implications. And even though it wasn't my favorite episode, I think it's going to set up what would be my favorite episode in this season. So
interesting. I love this episode. And my favorite thing about this episode was that I finally understood what this show is about, truly about. there have been hints and, sprinkles, and it's really a coming of age tale. But I finally realized in this episode what it's coming of age to. It's really it's about generational trauma that's passed down from mother to daughter. Sana was absent from Muniba's life for reasons unknown, and Muniba counteracts that by being hyper involved in Kamala's life. I say reasons unknown. We'll find out later. The love is there, but communication is, it's hard in family sometimes. And between specifically Muniba and Kamala, it's very difficult. And Sana also carries the weight of the partition with her, and her experience in that is weighing on her relationship with Muniba. If you go back to episode 1 and watch how Kamala interacts with Muniba, it is paralleling along the way. I think this show is really about coming of age with who you are, with your family, and accepting the cultural nuances of yourself. And we'll find out a little bit more about Muniba. That's just like, oh, okay. Now it all makes a little bit more sense with Kamala and how she is. This personally resonates with me, this whole sequence, just because knowing how vastly different my Nana and my mom were in their parenting methods. And it's almost flipped in a way, in the sense that my grandmother was very worried that my mother would be taken away by the adoption place, like her brother was, like week into the adoption process, essentially. And my mom is, because of how she was raised, is way more just like, just don't die, please, kind of vibes. And so I recognize, I'm like, oh man, that's like kind of inverse of my family. Another thing that I love, which, before we dive into the plot, is you say it's like a pacing step back, and in a way it is, but I think it's not as actiony, and it doesn't seem to focus on the powers as much. Now it's about going deeper than the powers. Where does it come from? My heart, what am I? My jinn edicts, if you will. And I think it really does set up a lot here for this back half, these back two, which gets me really excited. Let's go ahead and dive into the plot. We open up on the plane, and Muniba and Kamala have a fun back and forth with a dude awkwardly sitting in the middle seat, just trying to read a paper. And the first words that Sana says to Muniba after the greeting, once they land in Pakistan, of course, is that her skin is dry. And there it is, focusing on that generational trauma of like, oh, you could be doing better. I don't know if that accent was culturally right, but I apologize. Sana barely remembers Aisha, she says, and then she reveals to Kamala that, of course, she knows about being a jinn, and then drops that the bangle was last used on the night of the partition, and Kamala can only figure out her stuff in Pakistan right now. Next morning, Muniba tells Kamala straight up, please don't be weird, hearkening back to what Sana said to her in the first greeting, in a way. And then she says, stay with your cousins. We wouldn't want you to get into trouble. Always helicoptering, Muniba is. Mm-hmm. At the boat club, we find out, you're not supposed to be wearing them jeans. Sad. And then it's dropped that Kamala isn't a traditional Pakistani name. And then we find out that Muniba was, and I quote, always a bit of a rebel. So that is where I started going, oh, this is where their similarities are really starting to flow in. You don't see it, but as stories come out, it's like, oh, wow, look at this. In this sequence, because they go shopping, essentially, and Kamala is trying to find the train station, and we're just kind of seeing the culture of Pakistan market. We get an ABCDs reference, which stands for American Born Confused Desi, which reminded me immediately of ABC's American Born Chinese from Shang-Chi. Instant, which is what, the third or fourth similarity to Shang-Chi that we've got in here with the realms, as Selvig would say. Jump to the train station. Kamala dons her mask to scope it out, and then gets attacked by the Red Dagger, which we find out his name is Kareem later on. We get a dope fight scene here. Really a lot of fun going back and forth, and some great dialogue that, eventually leads to, come with me if you want to live. And it's like, oh, nice. What? I've always wanted to say that. Like, same, honestly. Who doesn't want to drop some Terminator lines in the middle of a weird, tense situation? He takes her back to a hidden base to meet Waleed. And Waleed says Aisha's story is of legend, and he also knows that Kamala is her descendant. We never find out how they know that. Maybe in the future. We'll get to that. Maybe. I don't know. In episode 5, maybe, I mean. He drops that the clandestines are not actually Jinn of legend. That's just what they were called back in the day, and mentions if Thor had landed on the same place the clandestines did, he would also have been called a Jinn, which is fun to think how extraterrestrials and quote-unquote gods are looked at, and how the culture will define their name on this earth, which is a really fun little tidbit.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot too, because that shows a connection between, like, Kamala's just this young woman who is trying to figure out her powers, and they're quite standard, honestly, in the world of the MCU. And then you have Thor, who's a freaking god who can channel lightning, right? They would be one and the same. They would be on the same plane. They would be recognized as the same type of different person that has come to this planet, right? So I think that is a really cool thing when you talk about Kamala and Thor, and like how a superhero is viewed or how powers are viewed. It's kind of one and the same to a lot of different people, and I like that. But Jeremy, go for it. But I want to pull back to the red daggers when you're done, because I have a thought.
Yeah, no, I'm going to keep it right there. I liked that they brought up Thor as an example, because that gives you that idea. Like, look, this is still culturally relevant to Kamala, but it's also much bigger than that. Where saying like, oh yeah, if Thor would have done that, then he would have been called that too. It's his way of, saying that, oh, well, this culture always, every culture has, their own answer for what happens, but I want to put this in a bigger scope. Like this does fit into your lore, but it's not just that, I really like how it was kind of subtly put in there. Like, this is bigger than just the mythology you've been reading, really setting up something nice for the scale of the events that will take place by the end of this series.
Yes, and I think this is our third reference to Thor in this series, and just keep shouting my boy out, you know what I'm saying? Because I think it was last week or the week before. It was the week before, episode 2. Wait, am I Asgardian? Am I related to Thor? Am I related to Thor? And now we're getting another reference to Thor, which is a great way to both to the audience, to Kamala, and to Kamala within the world of the MCU 616, to define, how things basically define perception of the heroes, like Ethan said. And it's, again, just keep using Thor as references. Like Thor and Ant-Man, keep giving them to me. What was that?
The movie Thor Love and Thunder is coming out this week. And we were just talking, Miss Marvel doesn't end until after Thor is already out. Oh my God. So I don't know. Is that a coincidence?
I feel like that has not happened with a Disney Plus show before. I feel like leading into No Way Home and leading into other things, we always ended the week before. Like, we always ended before the movie came out. It was never an overlap. From what I can recall, I might be missing something, but I think that's a very interesting schedule structure, and I'm sure it's not on accident.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
I'm not saying she'll show up, but I don't know.
The closest I think we've gotten is like What If overlapping with Shang-Chi, and I don't even know if those actually did overlap. So yeah, I think you're right. Because even Hawkeye and No Way Home, I think there was a break in between, right?
I thought so. I thought there was at least a couple days, right? Because like it ended the Wednesday before, and Spider-Man came out on Thursday, or on the Friday or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm seeing the finale date for Hawkeye as December 22nd. And No Way Home came out on the 17th. Because of the Rockefeller thing, the Rockefeller tree, that confused everybody.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Super interesting.
All hoping for a connection there.
Can I talk about the red daggers for a second? I feel like this is a big portion of the episode. Obviously, is that Kamala kind of gets introduced to this big group that is very culturally relevant, makes her feel seen and heard when it comes to the culture of Pakistan and being part of that world, and also in terms of her legacy and her mythos and her powers. She's heard on that level too. So it is very important for Kamala. I got two takeaways kind of out of this main Red Dagger fight that we get initially kind of in that train station. I actually thought it looked really good and I liked it. And we got to see some new things from Kamala, which was cool. She responded very quickly to a lot of things. She made some quick decisions, which I thought was impressive for her powers. The first takeaway is that Aman Vellani is a wonderful actor, because all of the one-liners coming from the Red Daggers did not land for me at all. Like that Terminator quote, I was like, that's so corny. And I know this show is a coming-of-age story, and I'm not judging it based on that. I know that's the tone, but every time Aman Vellani as Kamala Khan says something or gets herself into a situation where she plays a joke, like you mentioned, TCR, of like, am I related to Thor? Am I an Asgardian? Like, she plays it so well and so believable with so much energy and passion that I'm just like sold. I wasn't sold on the other kind of one-liners we got in this little setup here. And the other thing is the really quick, like, changeover to, you're trying to kill me, but okay, I'll go see what the Red Daggers are about, and I'll follow you to this secret chamber that you have that's behind an oven in a kitchen. Maybe that's just representative of her like longing for belonging and longing for placement within something greater than Bruno and her friends, her very humanized friends. That could show her quick decision to want to do that. I understand that, but it's fast. Like, there is no, just because you're getting chased by cops, you're going to all of a sudden say like, okay, cool, you were trying to kill me and throw knives at me, but I will follow you. I just don't buy that pacing. I feel like we could have sat on that for a little bit. We could have had another interaction later, even later on in the episode, where she's like, hey, I saw you before. And he's like, I know I came across like I was trying to kill you, but I'm here to tell you something, and we need you. We need your help. That, I feel like for me, that would have landed so much better, because instead of all of it taking place in the same 4 or 5 minute span, we would have seen events take place where technically Kamala would have had time to process how she felt about this event and how she felt about this person and what she wanted to do and action on. So I feel like that was really pressed, and I know the MCU is known for that. I know it has been doing that. And these 6 episode slates, I know we're talking about The Boys. You get 8 episodes with The Boys. I'm just saying 6 episodes. I feel like I continue to harken back and back, especially on my pod, of like, I don't know if it's enough time to ever tell the depth of story that we're trying to tell. That's my long-winded Red Daggers. I'm good.
I'm with you on that. I think the Disney Plus style of these series that we're getting is a little bit too short, especially since the episodes themselves are usually around 30 to 45 minutes. Like you mentioned The Boys, it's 8 episodes, but each one is an hour or longer, and we spend quality time with every character. With this, it's 6 episodes and it's way less than an hour. And I felt this way with Moon Knight, with even Hawkeye, and I loved the Hawkeye series. We're just not getting enough time with these, mini series that they're doing, where they're not giving us any time to process until after the episode is over. We can't process with these characters and watch how certain things play out in their head, like that scene where the Red Daggers are going after her. They have a quick scuffle, and then all of a sudden they're fighting together. It all happens so quickly that I'll be honest, I forgot that they were even fighting at first. That I thought he sought her out and they teamed up. I totally forgot that there was that bout between them, which was a really good fight scene. I mean, Kamala can really hold her own already, which is really impressive. Which I do have to say might also be a consequence of the limited time in this series. We did get to see a little montage of her training, but like, she's squaring off against Red Daggers now and the Jinn that's following her. And she's throwing punches and blocking things and playing defense amazing. And it's just a little bit much for me to go, yeah, that makes sense. I believe that's where she's at in her training, Okay. But I think I align with you on the timing thing of the pacing of it. I think it does feel a bit rushed.
Yeah, I'll concur on that train station sequence. It was like, again, I summed up the whole thing in a sentence?
Yeah.
Basically. Right. And on her powers and like really coming into it, when it comes to playing defense, she's been really good at that in her whole life. Like when you see her before the power, she's playing defense against her family. She's playing defense against all these different things. So naturally, blocking and defending and making sure that you can get away safely is kind of ingrained into her. So that was like the first thing she picked up. I think we've seen her throw 2 punches up to this point in the episode, like in the entire series, as far as I can remember. So it's interesting that defense is so natural to her, but she's slowly coming into her own with the offense of it all. And I don't have any answer as to why she might have, first off, there's a line from Kareem who says, "I sense the Nor." And I'm trying to figure out, how did he sense the Nor, right? Like, was it all with the Waleed stuff? But we'll jump back into the secret base behind the oven, because this is where we get some deep 616 lore. Waleed says there are many dimensions connected to our world that remain unseen, and if the clandestines open the veil and unleash the Nor, it will take over our world completely. And we see an amazing overlaid map of Nor and Earth, as some people like to call it. One single scene in the DODC prison where the clandestines escape and leave Kamran to defend himself. What the fuck, Mom? Jeez, it's such a rude mom.
Just abandoned him.
Yeah, multiple times.
We got to talk about what the DODC is doing there too, because they're moving their prisoners like it's a Dark Ages dungeon. Like
they're playing Jesse style from Breaking Bad, man. They're pinning him up.
Yeah. What is that about? Is that really how that prison operates?
I think so. It's a superhero prison, and this is the same place that Emil Blonsky's hanging out in. He's in that. So, we'll find out. I'm not too worried about it in this episode or like this series yet, mostly because I feel like we're going to get way more in depth in She-Hulk, because this is the exact same prison we've seen in trailers for She-Hulk. So it's like a nice little
disappointing escape, though. Like they got out of that so easily.
They have
security
power.
Was what, but the security, like you think they would know that
compared to a superhero, though.
It's a superhero prison. Like they're kind of supposed to be equipped for that.
That's
they're holding Abomination.
Yeah, well that's because they got the good old, what is it? An impressive cage, to be sure. Not built, I think, for me. That whole shtick. We jump. Kamala gets back home. And finds Sana is hiding from Muniba because she's on a cleaning rampage. Always fun. Shout out moms that do that. She tells Kamala that Sana tells Kamala that she's still trying to figure out who she is. She says she has a Pakistani passport, roots in India, and a border marked with blood and pain between all of that. And people are basing their identity on an idea some old Englishmen had when they were fleeing the country. We see the weight of this on Sana, and it is the beginning of us as the audience understanding her trauma a little bit. Kamala gets a text, which we haven't even talked about the lack of Nakia texting her back, but maybe when we're done. Kamala goes to a beach bonfire while Sana and Muniba reconnect. Muniba is hard on her mom about the clutter and the toffee boxes, which Sana says they were for her, but she ate most of the toffee along the way. Muniba says she wants her mom to come to America. Sana thought that she was running away, going to America, to get as far away from her as she could. Muniba says that she left to figure out who she was because she was being shunned due to Sana's fantasies and stories. Sana wanted to share those stories with her, but Muniba said she didn't need the stories. She needed her mother. When Kamala comes home, she asks Muniba if she's okay, and the immediate response is, "You know how mothers are." And this is where I went, this is what the show is really about on an emotional level. Kamala learns a little bit more about her stuff and gets a historic piece of fabric. I said her stuff, her history. Gets a historic piece of fabric that's blue, and it starts to, build and evoke her costume that's going to be coming.
Then, that, by the way,
I love
the fact that we're watching her build her look throughout this series and not just handing her a super suit like we did with our new Captain America. I love the new Captain America suit with Sam Wilson, but it didn't feel earned. It just felt handed to him. This doesn't feel that way at all. It's so deeply rooted in her culture and her family's history, and even with Bruno, who's an extended part of her family. Like, there's pieces of her in this suit. It's really cool.
And real fast, that symbol, it's not a direct lightning bolt. I'm trying to remember his name off of is a TikToker, pointed out that if you look at the necklace of Kamala, written in Urdu, I believe, it's always read right to left the first symbol, it's just her name, Kamala, is actually her Miss Marvel logo that she'll be wearing. So essentially, she's wearing a giant K in Urdu on her chest. That's just going to keep building and building. And I think that's going to be an homage to her mother, you know, like, oh, she gave me this name, and so I'm going to wear it in some way on my chest.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. When the clandestines drop in, then the clandestines drop in. Waleed holds them off, and we get a dope chase sequence right then and there with Kareem, Kamala, and Waleed being chased by those good old not jinns. Along the way, Waleed kills Salim. Then Waleed is killed by Najma as a result. And when Kareem is knocked down later on in a different sequence here, Kamala does the coolest thing we've seen her do yet, which I'm calling the Iron Man flip and smash. So dope. Loved it so much. Kareem kills Adam, and Najma stabs the bangle, ripping a tear into the fabric of reality, just like Clea in the Multiverse of Madness post-credits.
Yes. Just
Trans-
like it.
Exactly. That was the first thing I thought. Was, oh, Dark Dimension. Good to know. It's basically transporting Kamala to the past, so we think. 1942 partition at the train station, to be specific. And my God, man, this is genuinely one of the most painful scenes I think we've ever gotten in this show. The sadness, the fear, the panic, it's all inherently ingrained into the scene. And that's when it cuts to black, essentially. She gets on top of a train, kind of going, oh, this is where I'm at now. Which now leads me directly to the question of the hour. Did Kamala go back in time? Is she in a memory, or is she in the Noor dimension? There's a lot of ways to go here. Let's start with you, Ethan. Where do you think she's landed?
I think initially I thought that she went back in time, because I think on an MCU broad spectrum, now that we have the multiverse and now that we understand how things work like this, I can see her going back in time and trying to influence and create a different branch of reality, or however it may happen. I guess maybe personally that's what I want the most, because I don't want it to be, oh, we're just in another dimension. This just happened somewhere else, and this doesn't impact your reality, or like this doesn't impact anything that you know of today because it's a totally different universe. I think this moment and this scene is so powerful, and what the episode did do very well was build up to us understanding why this 30-second moment at the end is indeed so powerful and so heart-wrenching, because we know everything from her mom and her nana and all of these things, and all of it builds to understanding why this moment in the train station during partition is so heartbreaking. So that did it very well. And if she went back in time to see that happen, I think would be the most impactful on Kamala as a hero and as a person. Will she have any chance to like change anything, to be involved? It looks like nobody notices her in this. It looks like she is just present and not actually part of her surroundings. So that could again like lead to this kind of Noor dimension idea or thought process. Whatever it is, I did think it was a strong way to end it. I'm not a huge fan if it is a different universe.
I agree with that. Yeah, I definitely don't want it to be somewhere other than, the events that took place on Earth when that happened. It would be really cool if she did time travel for this. I don't really know how they would explain that or make it work. I mean, when you're dealing with, space-time in the MCU, they can write new rules whenever they wish. With Endgame, we got to learn how time travel works, but then when we got to Loki and then other, multi-universal projects like Multiverse of Madness, there's so many different things you can do when hopping between different time points and different universes. So I think it could go pretty much either way with a different universe or a different point in time. I'm really hoping it's the point in time, though, because I want to learn more about the 616 history and see the events that they've been talking about so far in these first 4 episodes. Our friend David Nestor, longtime friend from the Direct Discord, is saying he's really curious to why the Bengal is so set on showing Kamala that train. I'm 100% on with you on that. Like that, what the heck is going on with that one train? Because when she had that vision, her grandmother had it as well. And that's the reason that she called her down there and said, you need to come see me. And then as soon as she does get down there, then she's actually seeing the train. Like she doesn't fully experience that vision, if it is just a vision, until she actually gets to that place. So it feels like there's something rooted in this geographical location that the Bengal is trying to show her through that history. What it is, I still have no idea, but it is really curious how that one train keeps coming up. Thomas, do you have any thoughts on that?
I like the idea because no one recognizes her. So in some way, it seems like she could be living a memory within the Bengal. There is the inscription that we get that Waleed says and talks about that says, what you seek is seeking you.
Yeah.
And somehow Sana got that, she got the Bengal, but apparently she never saw Aisha again after the partition. Right. So there's a lot of like little plot holes, if you will, if you want to call it, that I feel like they're going to fill in here. Her first vision was of Aisha calling her, not Najma. In my opinion, I've always thought it was Aisha. And when I go back to rewatch, it's, Aisha's calling to her. The train is calling to her. There's something going on in this section that's very important. And when Sana puts on the Bengal for the first time, she sees a vision that we know nothing about. Right. So this could be a Leia Organa Ben Solo moment where she sees like, oh, I have to do like a few certain things so I can get this to my future granddaughter so that she can become this hero, the great hero that she's going to be. Because, good is not something you are. It is something you do. I would love if she's actually physically back in time and she is able to directly impact events, aka get her grandmother onto the train. And it's mentioned how they need 2 Bengals to do what they need to do. They want to do, which is open the portal, essentially. I really don't know where they're going to go with this, but it seems like they're setting up something absolutely huge here. Episode 5 looks to me, with Kamala back in this memory / vision / actual point in time, it's going to reveal everything that she needs to know. This is where she learns that information that we've been kind of alluding to this whole time. And it's really intriguing how Sana also saw the same stuff, but her mother didn't, as far as we know. Like, he's mentioned nothing about these visions. However, she might be having them this whole time and just ignores them.
She's been in denial of this the whole time. She wants no part of this.
Yeah,
it's funny. I said ignores them.
And she mentions it's genetics too, right? So like this isn't something super special directly to Kamala. I think the train has to be in line with the tone and the scope of the show. It needs to unlock something about Kamala's family history or personal identity. It needs to have something where she gets on that train and she finds another Bengal, or she finds something that tells her exactly who she is in this world. And I know that we're discovering that along the way, but I think using that as a huge kind of clue to that, and we've been trying to discover her identity this entire time, and hopefully by the end of episode 6, I believe that she will land on the moniker of Miss Marvel, because we've gone through many instances where she's been like, no, that's not a cool name. And who is this? And why do you call her that? And all these things. She'll land on the moniker of Miss Marvel. She will get an introduction to Captain Marvel, and she will move forward into the Marvels confident in both her powers and who she is as a Pakistani superhero. I think that is what's going to be important, setting her character up for the future. So I think the train has to do something with that. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know how you manage that, but I think that's where we're going. It's going to be a big unlock for her as a hero, potentially, kind of take the veil off and say, like, these are extra powers, or like, this is like the next level of things that you can do now that you know who you are and who you were and who your family was. It could also reveal a lot about her mom, right? Like you mentioned, maybe she's having the visions and she's just ignoring them. And And maybe this is that connection. We get a really small connection in this episode between Kamala and her mother sharing toffees and laughing with each other and saying like, oh, you know how moms are. And I liked that sweet little moment. And I feel like we are continually gearing towards them inching closer and closer to having a very connected relationship. Maybe we get a huge connection and say, oh, we are one in the same. My mom ignored it. I'm not ignoring it. Here's why this is important to who we are generationally. And it goes hand in hand with that generational trauma. And it kind of unlocks the entire package of saying, look, you can't ignore who you are, whether it's a fable or it's a fantastic dream or not. You have to accept who you are in this world. And the train could unlock all of that for the entire family. I think you're right. We're getting a huge moment with this.
Yeah. We're getting big vibes of Moon Knight's second to last episode, where he spent the majority of that episode doing a deep dive into his own history and learning a lot about himself while we were learning about him too. So we'll probably see that a lot in this upcoming episode. David Nestor in the comments actually asked, how long do you guys think we are spending in that train station / memory next episode? I think it's going to be just like Moon Knight. Yeah, Thomas, go for it.
I'm not sure if it's going to be the whole episode. I could see it being the entire episode, but I feel like we say this all the time, right? They have so much to do in terms of Kamala, how we get the suit, taking down the clandestines, the Jinn. Specifically this train to the past, as I've been calling it in my head, is the start of her family's story, the start of her family's journey to that point. As someone who looks at World War II as the start of my family's journey, for me even being born, I really resonate with that, and how important one or two little decisions, the butterfly effect, ripple all the way across 80 years, if you will, to, have, well, I guess it's not, well, for her, it's probably about 80 years. Yeah, she's a young kid. It was, like 50 years when I was born that we were off of World War II. But in this case, the train got her family to Pakistan, which started that journey. And Sana, followed the trail of stars. I think we're going to see that. Whether or not Kamala is directly doing that or not remains to be seen. I say minimum of half the episode is in this train station in memory. The pacing of this specific episode leads me to believe we really could spend the whole episode there, and then Kamala kind of wakes up type of thing. But I mean, if she's asleep or in a dream, it's real confusing on how she's gonna not die, because it's basically her and Kareem fighting off Najma. And one thing I really want to drop here, every episode in this series essentially ends on a cliffhanger that's been a red herring in some form or fashion. I don't remember how episode 1 fully ended. If I'm being dead honest, I remember that was like a uplifting, yeah, let's go kind of thing. And then really it was DODC. Oh, they're the villains, right? That was the post credits. They're the villains. Episode 2, Kareem and Najma show up to save her. Turns out they're the villains. Episode 3 ends with, oh, you got to come to Pakistan. Like, oh, this is going to be big. And it's like, okay, that actually wasn't a red herring. That's the first one that wasn't. This ends on the train station. Is it a red herring? Is it a memory? Where are we going with this? Ethan, what do you think about that question? What did you think? I think personally, I want it to be the entire episode, because it harkens back to my argument of like, we're just not spending enough time in the moments that we need to spend. I think if Marvel really was, and this is something I tweeted out the other day, hopefully having a conversation with Matt Romke in the coming weeks about this on my pod from the Direct, you guys know, is that I think sometimes the MCU is just too big for its own good. So if we want to shy away from that and say, look, we are personable, we do care about Kamala's personal story and her family history, this is the moment to prove it. And this is the moment to say, see, we can take an entire 45 minutes and spend them in a train station learning about her family history. Sure, it does not progress her powers. It does not progress anything with anything else going on in the show. But I think that's a really important distinction, because that in turn would kind of break the MCU mold for one episode and say, look, we don't need to
discover who we are, have a battle, and have a cliffhanger. That's how every single episode has pretty much gone so far. And episode 4 was no different. And I want it to be the whole episode. Realistically, what do I think it's going to be? I think it'll be about 50% of the episode. I think they will touch what they need to touch and then move on. And I guess that's okay. I totally understand that. It's frustrating because it means that we are more worried about the progression of the plot than we are about the development of Kamala and her family, which is what the entire show is about. I personally, I think, why don't you spend the entire episode in the train station and bookend a 90-minute finale? Stranger Things is 90 minutes every fucking episode. So why are we not just taking advantage of our own property? Like, why are we not just like doing what we want to do, right? And like Miss Marvel would be such a fun thing to do that for, because there is so much to unpack, and it is kind of one of those shows that has not been received the same on social media as a Loki or as a WandaVision has, right? It's kind of more been kind of boxed in, and if that's the first show to be like 90-minute finale because we spent so much time caring about Kamala and her personal story, I personally think that would be really cool. Is it going to happen? Absolutely not.
What about you, JRB?
No, I want it to be similar to what we got from Moon Knight because I liked that so much. We haven't seen Kamala truly isolated and without help from someone yet. Like every step of the way, she's had assistance with what she's been doing one way or another. Even when she was fighting the Red Daggers, that immediately turned and they started helping her, you know? This is a spot where it's going to be much more difficult for her to find an ally. She's totally displaced. She has no idea what she's even looking for. All she knows is that it's also looking for her too, whatever it is. So I think it would be really nice to take this episode to show her outside of her element and really figure out on her own how she's going to get what she needs to get and do what she needs to do.
I like that a lot. I had a cliffhanger question and then I didn't write it down, so I forgot about it real quick.
That's how we roll, baby.
It's how we roll, baby. Live shows. David Nestor, thank you so much for that question. That was a lot of fun. I don't even want to ask my Ant-Man question because there's almost nothing related to this show in any way, shape, or form.
We got to talk about Ant-Man. He's everywhere. He's everywhere
everywhere. My question then is, we'll end on this because I think I know where this Ant-Man stuff is trailing to. Are the Ant-Man nods leading someplace or just showing us how important Ant-Man really is in this universe heading into Quantum Mania?
I like that. Ethan, I'll let you take that first.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a world building perspective and an MCU idea, it's 100% a lead up to Quantumania. I think you have to continually build up to Kang and Ant-Man and this inevitable meeting that we're going to have. If Kang is showing up in an Ant-Man movie, I mean, that's going to be the crux of introducing this next big bad here. And I think it goes kind of hand in hand with, and I don't want to segue you too early because I know JRB, I want to hear your thoughts as well, but I think it goes hand in hand with Soldier Boy and the boys, right? We get a big mythos lineup and then we finally see him and then we get him in action episodes later, right? And so I think all this Ant-Man stuff is to say, hey, don't forget, like this mural says like Ant-Man is a really big deal. And so I just think we're doing a lot of lead in and I like that a lot.
I like it. Yeah. Ant-Man we've been reminded of Ant-Man in so many different places. Even back in like Hawkeye, he was brought up multiple times, and even Clint Barton was annoyed that like people were cosplaying as Ant-Man. He's like, nobody used to know this guy. And it's funny because in Avengers Endgame, Ant-Man plays such a crucial role in that story, but he's also shown right at the beginning of the film, like nobody knows who Ant-Man is, you know, like nobody cares about me. Because he asks those kids, you know, you want a picture with me? And they're like, no, like even that one kid is saying no, you know? So I like that they've positioned Ant-Man in a place where he is one of like what the public sees as like a B-tier hero, you know? And I like that post Endgame, he's been catapulted into a bigger spotlight that he hasn't had before. And we have, like you said, we have not seen him in yet. We're learning that everyone likes Ant-Man now and that he's got his podcast where he's gushing about all the big superhero details. but we haven't actually seen him since those developments took place. And his last movie back in 2018, Ant-Man and the Wasp, was a pretty small scale film where it was very hit or miss for people. So to bring in a guy like Kang the Conqueror in their follow-up film for the Ant-Man franchise is a huge move, especially with where people are sitting on Ant-Man right now. So yeah, I think integrating him into all of these little projects and making sure he's still fresh in everyone's memory and giving people reasons to like and talk about Ant-Man in the current MCU, I think is going to do wonders for his upcoming film and probably does say a lot about his importance going forward.
It's kind of ridiculous that the MCU can now have like in-universe promotion for their next movie. Like this is where we landed is like, cool, let's promote our next Ant-Man movie, which we want to do really well at the global box office and cross $1 billion. So we'll just start tossing them in other MCU projects. So people are like, oh yeah, Ant-Man's super dope. Right. I better go see that movie in real life. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. And he even popped up in the Rogers the Musical and Hawkeye's like, he wasn't even there. Like they are clearly putting Ant-Man in a place where like, he might even be like, talking to people saying, I'm not the guy you think I am. I'm not this great hero. You know, I'm much more smaller scale, you know, no pun intended. But like, I think we're going to see some sort of conflict with how Ant-Man didn't have that claim to fame. And that's why he was so successful in what he did. And now that he has that, he's like, how do I deal with this? But yeah, Miss Marvel's just kind of tacking onto that and adding a nice little layer of development for what we'll see with Ant-Man later.
I'll end with two things that I think is going on here with Ant-Man. It is because in universe, it's because he's the one who went out and told the world what happened, right? He's the guy with the information. For us, I think it's building towards, yes, Quantum Mania, showing us, reminding us how big he is. But on top of all that, I really do think that it's leading to a Young Avengers where Scott Lang is going to be the one who's kind of helping everybody, helping the team, helping the kids, things like that. I think that is where we are landing. We are going to take a brief break, 60-second break, and then we will be, I lied, 30-second break because we got to talk to boys. We have so much to do here. We'll see you after the jump.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
And now we're going to segue over real aggressively to the boys. And a baby boy is found to have a family, allegedly. JRB. Lead us right in, man.
We, so if you watched episode 6, which Ethan actually got to watch these two back to back. So episode 6, Herogasm, left us in a really interesting spot with pretty much every character. We had Starlight fully exposing what Vought is doing, what Homelander is doing. We had Butcher and Huey leave with Soldier Boy after he completely decimated the TNT Twins love mansion, or whatever that was. We had A-Train, who finally took matters into his own hands and took care of Blue Hawk, which we found a crazy development on in this episode. And then we've got Homelander, who got his ass kicked and ran away scared, and they were close to actually taking Homelander down. That is Butcher, Soldier Boy, and Huey all hopped up on V. And then we've got Kimiko, who is just kind of a mess right now, where she is saying, you know, I thought the V was making me a monster. Turns out I am the monster. And we talked last week about how the V just brings out a more intense, more fulfilled version of who you are on the inside. And we'll see more of that in this episode. But yeah, so this episode, it was much more deep on an emotional level. We see Huey, Butcher, and Soldier Boy return to the Legends penthouse, where Soldier Boy is having some fun with the Legend's older cleaning ladies, and the Legend thanks him and says, "Great, now I can never fire them. Thanks a lot." But yeah, so we see that Butcher and Huey are trying to figure out, what do we do next? Because Soldier Boy's on edge. They've got him hopped up on, he's just always smoking weed to keep his nerves down because he's got some severe PTSD, which he's in complete denial of. But yeah, so Butcher, Huey, and Soldier Boy, their next target is Mindstorm from Payback. And they're having a really tough time finding him because there's so many different little houses that Mindstorm has set up for himself, like little safe houses, that they don't even know where to start looking. And we get an awesome moment from Huey where the Legend mentions that Mindstorm is bipolar. And Huey goes, "Wait, is he on meds for that?" And the Legend said he used to be. And Huey has the idea of, well, let's search all of these safe houses' general location and look at the pharmacies nearby to see if any of them are prescribing lithium, which is a medication to help with bipolar disorder. And Butcher kind of looks at Huey and goes, "Nice one. Like that. Wow. That's why I have you around, And we finally get a look at Huey and how his intellect is more valuable than his superpowers. I think that this was a huge pivotal moment for Huey because it also made him realize, oh, I am more than just the superpowers that I've found. Ethan, I want to know, from this interaction between the Legend, Soldier Boy, Butcher, Huey, what we learned, what were your thoughts on that little sit down where they're scheming? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's I think what episode 7 and the boys has continually done this in season 3. And I will just say quickly, you guys had me on your pod to talk about season 2 leading into season 3. And I had powerhoused all those episodes and I was like, look, I don't know how I feel about season 3. I thought we were going to use Homelander's son as a huge kind of MacGuffin. I thought we were going to go in a lot of different directions that I wasn't super excited with. And I can confidently say this is probably the best show that's coming out on a weekly streaming basis right now, because the character development that we're getting week after week is unbelievable. This show is continually unpredictable. And I know we'll talk about episode 7. That is what makes this show so interesting and impressive, is that contrary to Miss Marvel, we're not getting a bunch of talk and then a battle and then a cliffhanger. We're getting moments in the boys that are like 15 minutes in where we're just like, oh shit. Like, oh my God, like this is happening. Like, I can't believe things are going down. Like, oh, I can't believe Newman just called out Starlight and was like, look, we both know that I can blow up heads. And it's like, okay, like we're doing this right now.
Right.
Back to your question though. So this moment between all of them, I think is really important. The storyline that we've gotten with the V24 is huge because especially in terms of Kamiko and wanting to decide that she actually does want V again. And this theory and this theme of like, it just brings out what's already inside of you means that Huey and Butcher are both really fucked up people. Like, they're just really bad at their core. And Mindstorm even says, like, he's a piece of shit. Like, I've seen his memories. I've seen his thoughts. He is a terrible person. And so I think this huge interaction, I personally did not know if Huey understood what he brought to the table right then. I know he gets a little bit of praise from Butcher, and I know Butcher realizes it and is like, oh, that I would have never thought of that. That's huge. That brings us where we need to go. But I don't think Huey recognizes what he brings to the team, because he specifically says, do you want like a weak and timid Huey, or do you want a strong, confident, superpowered Huey? And that's his internal motivation for continually taking V. He thinks he is on Starlight's level. He thinks he is on Homelander's level of like, I have to physically and mentally be super duper strong and manly in order to be beneficial to this team, when in fact he doesn't. And that if Huey doesn't figure that out in that conversation, that we don't go anywhere. We solve nothing, right? We're at a dead stop, which I think is really interesting. Can I say one more thing real quick? I kind of teased something to you guys off air before we started.
Yes.
So I watched 6 and 7 back to back last night. So Herogasm and this one, and Molly, my wife, knew that I was like trying to finish all these so I could join you guys on the pod this morning. And I was like, I watched episode 5 in the middle of the day yesterday, and I was like, Molly, I did it. Like, my next episode is Herogasm. I can't wait. Like, it's supposed to be super crazy. She does not watch this show. She really could care less about the boys and superheroes and whatever. We sit down for dinner last night, and I was like, look, I got to start going on these episodes. Are you cool? Like, if I just throw this on? She's like, yeah, absolutely. She sat. Her first introduction to the boys, Herogasm. She sat through the entire episode. And even after we finished, she was like intently watching. And I was trying to give her little plot points here and there of like, hey, here's like the 1-sentence review of like Homelander and like Huey and Starlight and all these things. And she watched Herogasm from the very first, like it's her first introduction to the boys. And I just want to give her public commends, like incredible introduction to the boys. Good job. You did it, Molly. Welcome to the crew. I mean,
wow,
incredible
that
stuff.
is quite the episode to start on. I mean, that I still believe that's one of the most well put together episodes they've ever done, but it's also one of the most batshit crazy episodes they've ever done. Like,
oh yeah,
wow, and that was her in to the boys, huh?
That was crazy. Her in, man. Wow. I don't know if she's coming back for more, but that was her in.
You know what? I feel like I wouldn't blame her if she didn't. I would understand if she was interested after that, but I also would get it if she was like, that's not for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Molly. That is
Isn't that crazy?
What an episode. Literally, that's, in my opinion, that's one of the greatest episodes of anything. It reminded me of Stranger Things, Herogasm, because you think you're getting A, and then you get the entire rest of the alphabet, and you go, oh, that's right. I thought I was just getting A. Like, I forgot Ryan exists. I forgot he got a name drop in this episode. Like,
when you
bring it up,
Ethan, yeah, like, you brought up Ryan, and I was like, wait, Ryan, that's crazy. We haven't seen him in forever. But they've kind of just left him lingering, and they've done that. They do that with so many things, and half the time you don't even realize they've done it because there's so much else going on.
But they did it in such a good way too, personally. Yeah. Like he is being shuttled safe house to keep him off the map and off the grid. So it totally checks out that we haven't heard about him for 4 or 5 episodes because he is trying to be safe. Like, he is not part of this plot. He is kind of away, hidden from everybody in the world. And that makes sense. And I think that's one of the great things that The Boys does is, like, it doesn't just like never return to Ryan and then like, oh my God, the finale, like Ryan's here. It's like, no, has a very particular reason why he is out of the story and off the screen.
Love that.
Yeah, I love that too. And it's very similar to Maeve, which we'll get to in a little bit. Across this whole season, like, you forget about Maeve. Oh, Maeve. Yeah, that's right. Let's go, Maeve. It's kind of the same thing with A-Train at times, or Black Noir. I mean, to be dead honest, from season 1 to season 2, I forgot Black Noir even existed. Like, he's so in the shadows, if you will, like Batman, that you kind of forget about him. And boy, did we learn about him this episode, man. JRB, take us where you want to next, man.
So on the note of Huey trying to understand his value with the boys, Starlight is helping Kimiko, kind of nursing her back to health. They have a heart-to-heart over a huge handle of, what were they drinking? Was that whiskey?
Yeah.
And
Kirkland, baby.
Yeah, Kirkland, that's right. And it was Kimiko's first ever drink. And Starlight's like, oh, wow. Like, sorry, these are the circumstances, but this is awesome that you're sharing this moment with me. But then it gets a lot deeper than that. And we find out that Kimiko had already been planning to ask Starlight to help her get Compound V in her bloodstream again, because Kimiko has come to the realization that I couldn't protect Frenchie when he needed me to, and Frenchie is my family. And since I couldn't do that, I feel like I need the Compound V so I can protect them again, because she doesn't want to go through that experience. To her, that was more heartbreaking and traumatizing than all of the years she spent thinking that she was a monster on the Compound V. So that's a huge turning point for Kimiko. Starlight very reluctantly agrees because she has to go back to Vought Tower to get it. But she reluctantly agrees. While she's there grabbing the Compound V, she finds some schematics, some doctor's notes on which I by the way, plug The Boys Diabolical animated series on Amazon Prime. If you haven't watched that, you probably won't recognize where she's at in that moment.
Yeah.
But the temporary V we see tested extensively in that series, so you should check that out. But she goes into the lab, finds some compound V, and sees that it's the same lab they're also developing the temporary V. And that's when she learns that the temp V, from what it does to your brain and your body, you'll be totally fried like a fish by like your 4th or 5th dose. And she immediately thinks of Huey. Find out she does still care about him. She reaches out to Butcher and tells him, hey, keep Huey off of this stuff, please. It's going to kill him. And while she's telling Butcher that, you see it click in Butcher's head like, whoa, I've taken way more than 5 doses. Or he's right at that point, where he's like, oh, I'm going to die if I do this again. So the most irritating part of this scene is exactly what Starlight and the gang are expecting to happen. Butcher does not tell Huey like Starlight wants him to. Instead, he says, we got to swing by and get some more temp V so we can go, keep trucking along. And Huey goes, fuck yeah. And just walks away. Such a big brother, little brother moment where Butcher knows exactly what's happening. Ethan, walk me through your thoughts as you're seeing this all play out.
Dude, absolutely wild stuff from Butcher. Butcher went from being the guy to solve this, to figure it out. Let's root for Butcher to take down Homelander. Butcher is Homelander. He's the same guy. They are one and the same.
So many parallels.
Shows that have heroes and villains with such massive parallels are always super successful. And they're always really engaging storylines because they have the same core morals. They have the same idea. I will do whatever it takes, and it is always about me getting what I want and the end goal that I deserve. They just took 2 different paths in life. Butcher did not have Compound V. Homelander had Compound V. And that's pretty much how they diverged in this moment when 2 things, when Butcher said to him, like, we got to go get more Compound V. I was like, fuck you, Butcher. Like, this is ridiculous. You would put Huey through this because not 10 minutes ago, we watched Huey, not 10 minutes ago, we watched Huey save him, put his life on the line with Mindstorm to say, look, he has family. You have to get him out of this nightmare. I need him. I have to save him. And then Butcher knows what he knows. And he's like, we got to go get more Compound V. It shows that Butcher, it does not have the mental wherewithal and the mental maturity to come to grips with what reality might be for him. He is always trying to subside what his reality is. And in this moment, we spend a lot of the episode kind of in this nightmare flashing back to his childhood with his brother and with Lenny and how he essentially caused the death of his brother. This is a storyline in parallel with that. And it does a really good job of kind of flashing between pictures of like Lenny and Homelander and how Butcher kind of sees them as one and the same and being that big brother figure. And he has lived that nightmare over and over, whether we saw it or not. He's been living it forever. And in that moment, he still decides, I cannot be the man that I want to be. I have to be the man that I've always known. I have to be the person that I've always been. And that is to take the easy route and to not be the guy that is, that goes the extra mile to make sure that lives are saved. I think it is an incredibly complex relationship, and there's so many different levels to it. And Huey is the little brother of Butcher. Huey is going to turn out how Butcher turns out, and everything kind of got turned on its head in that moment, I feel like.
Yeah, boy, this whole season has really been the theme is fuck you, Butcher, for me. I'm like, he breaks Maeve's sobriety, basically. That really pissed me off, man. Then he just basically he's a giant dick to Ryan. They keep comparing him to his father over and over and over, and now we see why in these memories. And like for most of them, I'm like, wow, this is like horrible. This is traumatic. I understand why Butcher is the way he is, and we're building. I'm like, oh wow, he really is his father. But then it comes to that scene where it's basically him versus him talking, but it's Lenny. It's Lenny right before he kills himself. And it's, That's what you do. You always get everyone around you killed, right?
That's a huge revelation too.
Becca,
because Huey,
like
and Lenny.
You get them all
and
killed.
It started with Lenny.
Yeah. And he pushes, and that's when he wakes up. He's like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. I'm like, cool. He's turned a new leaf.
Absolutely
instantly. and when he's told by Starlight, he's like, okay, yeah. Oh God. Like I thought he was genuinely going to do it. I thought he was going to do the hard play, sacrifice his morals, lay down on the wire, if you will. And he just pulled, I can't even say pulled an Iron Man. He pulled a villain. He pulled a Homelander. And it pisses me off so much, man.
It's too simple for Butcher to take the easy storyline, honestly. And they've made such great story decisions with that, where that's what I said it before, but like, I'll say it again. This show is continually unpredictable. You don't know how deep Butcher is willing to go. We see in the prior episodes that he has a conversation with MM about where are you going to draw your line and how do you know where your line is at? And he says, I don't have a line. And right then you realize, like, he will go as far as it takes. And this, in conjunction with what we get from Homelander, I think it's in this episode. It might be in the episode prior where Homelander's kind of talking to himself in the mirror. It's very, like I said, very much one and the same.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the last episode.
That was, I want to stay in this discussion really quick because we covered a lot of ground here. I find it intriguing that Starlight is willing to help Kimiko get V back in her blood, right? It's my choice, but she's so against Huey doing it. I felt this is the first time where I'm like, okay, all right, Annie, you little hypocrite. It's the first time in a long time where I'm like a little upset with the Starlight of the show. But it's interesting to me because Kimiko's reasoning is the exact same as Huey. And it's like, and it's a girl helping girl thing versus, oh, he just wants to have power over me. Like, I can see her point of view on both of those, but it's like back to back. Essentially, Kimiko's like, I have to save my family, and I want to save my family. I have to. It's what I want to do. I couldn't save my brother. I was too scared. And we have Huey do the exact same thing, trying to save Butcher, the second biggest dickhead in this show, if you ask me. Maybe third now. Jesus, fuck, Soldier Boy, what a dick. But I love how they have that parallel, and I'm really wondering if Starlight will see Huey. Like, I really hope that Huey can explain to her the same way that Kimiko did, and maybe, just maybe, instead of V24, gets Compound V and becomes superpowered, because on the inside he's scared. That's why his power is teleportation. He is running from every pain in his life, while Butcher is burying his pain in his life to make him angrier and more powerful. Jesus, I just thought about myself in a moment. My darkness makes me strong. So it's a beautiful juxtaposition along the way. And I, in that sequence, I want to say it's beautiful that Starlight just gotcha journalism's Homelander with 190 million followers.
I was going to bring this up if you didn't.
Dude, that is, I was watching and I'm like, dude, he's going to kill her. He's going to kill her. And then she's like,
that look,
he's leading him, dude.
That look that Homelander gives to Starlight as the elevator is closing, where he kind of like says like, oh, we're not supposed to record when we're reading lines. And then his entire demeanor changes, is exactly why Midsommar as a movie is so impactful, because that final frame that you get is her finally realizing everything that she's been through. And I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody who hasn't seen it, but
Thank you.
why it's
halfway
important.
Through it.
You know why it's important, because it's important. But I adore that. I love that we don't get any more on that in this episode, because it's obviously leading to something entirely massive. And the fact that Starlight has come into her own in the last few episodes, she has to be pretty morally gray as well. Like everything with Huey and Kimiko, she has to straddle that line and figure out, like, how do I take people down? Because it's not as black and white as we thought it was at the end of season 2. It is not what Butcher and Huey thought it was. You can't go straight and take Vought down. It just won't work. You have to play the devil sometimes. And I love that. Again, like, that was a moment that is in the middle of the show. There's like 15 minutes left, and they just pull one out, and they're like, oh my God, she was recording Homelander on Instagram Live. Like, what the hell? That is something any other show would end with. That's your cliffhanger. You're done. And admittedly, it would be very strong, but we get an even stronger cliffhanger for episode 7. It's unbelievable, some of the writing in the show.
Yeah, man. I think I love this little side story or subplot we're getting on like the influence and the power that you carry with that social presence, you know?
Yes.
And like the power of social influence and basically they are fighting for, you know, the attention of the people. You have Homelander going on TV constantly trying to tell people everything's fine. You have Annie on social media all the time saying everything's not fine. She goes, this is day 5, still nothing's being done. She's, you know, a person for the people. And I really like that rather than using her powers in this season, except for when she's angry, is her weapon of choice has really been public opinion and trying to get people on her side and trying to still follow and do the right thing and not rely on that compound V that she has. So that scene was crazy. It was another huge reveal that you never saw coming. You know, she turns and looks at him. I'm thinking, why is she so cool right now?
Yeah.
And then she pulls out her phone and I was like, whoa. And that look he gives her is, you're fucking dead. You know, next time you better not step foot near me again or you're gone, you know?
Oh my God.
What is going to happen? Right. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to any predictions or anything, but what does Homelander do except go deeper into this kind of like fake news cycle that he says of like, oh, she traffics children and she's a terrible, like, other than getting her canceled, which I understand could be a very real thing, and that could be the way this storyline goes, is like wipes out all of her social influence, so she has no leverage. He cannot physically do anything, because if he kills her, everybody knows. Everybody knows that was going to be the next move. So he finds himself in a real pickle here, and I'm very curious what is going to transpire between Homelander and Starlight, because the tables turned really quickly.
My favorite thing is he literally tells the world, your fame is the only thing protecting you. And she literally whips out the biggest, veiniest, triumphant cock and slacks him in the face with it, with 190 million followers. And it is just, I'm like, that is power. That is genuine power. And it's crazy. Really quick, I'm going to cover all the things that Homelander learns in this episode. Not all of the things. He learns that thing in the cliffhanger, which we'll get to eventually. He learns that, oh, I'm literally getting like pushed further away from what I really want. Starlight just put me on blast, essentially. Let's not forget that address he was given. And I've been thinking about it for days, and it just hit me. I think it's Ryan. I think Newman gave up Ryan's position.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
She would do that.
Absolutely.
Newman. God.
So it just dawned on me, because I was like, where was it again? It was, it's in Minnesota. Oh, what would be in Minnesota? Oh, it's the middle of nowhere. Oh no, poor kid. So that'll be an interesting thing to see, especially with how the cliffhanger got us there. JRB.
Yeah.
You have one last thing about, let's jump back to Kimiko getting the V, because it's a very, very big piece of info.
That I think this is going to be really important for probably what this season is going to end on. And it's that Kimiko's able to take Compound V again and regain her powers after Soldier Boy basically fried them out of her. I think it's in the same episode, that either this episode or last, that someone literally uses that terminology. Soldier Boy fried the V out of him, you know? And then in the same the same episode, I believe, we see Kimiko get her powers back. I have a huge feeling that like Homelander will be debilitated by the end of this, but he won't be dead, and that he's going to kind of take form of like how Magneto is in the X-Men movies, where he's in that prison and he's consulted by the boys, maybe where
Ooh.
if Butcher survives this season, they kind of have that Professor X Magneto relationship where Homelander's locked up, and similar to how Homelander's visiting Maeve, kind of giving her his plan, thinking nothing's going to happen. That'll end up happening with Homelander, where he's imprisoned without powers, and they think he's not a threat anymore. And then it becomes a story of trying to get Compound V back into Homelander. I don't know how they're going to take that and run with it. I don't know who would be trying to help Homelander, unless it was someone like Newman, maybe. But I think that little piece where Kimiko is able to regain her powers will be a huge threat going forward if Homelander loses his. Because that's what they're trying to do with Soldier Boy. That blast might not kill him, like with Kimiko, but it might take his powers. So I think that's definitely something that we got to keep in our minds going forward, is that you can restore those powers after they've been taken away from you, even if you took the permanent stuff rather than the temporary.
Yeah. On this same subject, because it was this episode when Homelander said that, he says it to Maeve, Queen Maeve, in that early scene where she's like, "Are you wearing concealer? Do you have a bruise?" And
I loved it.
That's when he's like, "Do you know what you unleashed on the world?" That's my Homelander impression, by the way.
That's great.
It's very on point.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He mentions, like, eventually it's like, "Oh, I'm not." Well, I don't remember how he phrases it, but it's like, "I'm keeping you alive, Maeve," because he wants those eggs, the genetics of it all. Like, I want to use your DNA to make super babies in the future,
which is exactly what
happened to him.
Basically. Like he is turning into Vought.
Yeah. But it also proves that Homelander is forward thinking too. He might be smarter than we give him credit for, because he is keeping Maeve alive for a very specific purpose, and that is to essentially create backup for himself when he becomes Vought, when he becomes the sole savior of the world and of the hero world. And when he said that to Maeve, these little lines that are just like, that's kind of that, like, could just be a throwaway conversation of like, yeah, I'm tormenting you, I'm keeping you alive so you can watch the damage that you've created in me, etc., etc. But no, I'm harvesting your eggs. This dude is darkly and deeply effed. Like, in order to action on that and to actually do that is something truly wild. I think that's going to be a huge play in season 4. I think there's no way that this doesn't like come back around. And whenever if he gets out of a prison or whatever the case may be in season 4, Homelander needs backup, and he needs familial backup and people that will not turn on him, right? And will not do anything against him, because he thought Black Noir was the guy. He thought he was rock solid. And then Black Noir dips and he loses him, and he realizes, I cannot trust anybody, potentially even family. I don't know. We'll see.
And I love how Maeve ends it with, "This is a top 3 day of my life, because today's the day that I saw you afraid." And it's like, and that just pisses him off so much. We have 4 points before we get to that fucking cliffhanger, man. Like, good Lord. Let's start with, you mentioned Black Noir, man. Should we build up to Black Noir? Because I think the other ones are a little faster.
Yes, let's save Black Noir, because there's so much to unpack there, and let's come back to that.
Let's talk about A-Train. He has one scene in this episode.
Might have been the craziest scene. That might have made me the most unnerved out of any scene in this episode.
Ashley is off her hinges, dude. She's gone, though.
CEO Ashley is a mess. She is just going nuts. Yeah, but A-Train wakes up in a hospital. He seems to be, his vitals are all good. He seems to be totally fine. Ashley is sitting next to him, and as soon as A-Train becomes conscious again, Ashley is already feeding him a narrative of, "Hey, this is what happened. You have to follow this. Soldier Boy attacked you at Herogasm. You tried to fight him off. Sadly, he did kill Blue Hawk, but," and here's the kicker, A-Train got a heart transplant. And whose heart is it? It's Blue Hawk's. And you see A-Train's face goes completely blank, and he's just like, what reality am I living in right now? And A-Train is or Ashley keeps spouting off their plans for A Train. You know, you can run again. We're gonna make a movie about how she basically said how you grew up in the hood and like became a super. And he's like,
that's not how it went.
Yeah, he's like, that's not how it happened. But he's still so distraught by the fact that he has this racist bigot's heart in his chest beating for him now. I mean, I honestly thought he was gonna speed out the window and just kill himself. Like the look on his face was, what quality of life am I living at this point? You know,
I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition though, because this whole season we have focused on how A Train cannot run, even though he has wanted to run. Excuse me. And how important that has been to him, and his decline in taking Compound V and all of these things that caused him not to run. Right? Who is A Train if he cannot run? If he cannot be the fastest man on the planet? This heart gives him that ability. It's a super heart. He is immune to all heart diseases, any heart failure. He can run as fast as he wants for as long as he wants. So it's this real pickle for him because he can do what he's always wanted to do and what defines him at the cost of being one of them, at the cost of leaving your morals at the door and saying, okay, this is the price of admission to be a hero. This is the price of admission to be a puppet for Vought. This is the price to be who I wanted to be forever and ever and ever. And up until a few episodes ago, he's never cared about justice. He doesn't care about black neighborhoods. He doesn't care about those that want him to stand for them. He has only cared about himself, which is the continuing focus of this show, and every single hero that we get is somehow self-centered, whether it be in massive ways or very small ways. So I'm really curious to see what he does moving forward, because it puts him in a really weird spot. And it is so interesting to say you can have it all, but it costs you the heart of a racist bigot and someone who fucked up your brother.
Man.
I don't know. I could see A Train coming to grips and saying like, okay, all right, this
you mean
is what
like A Train quite literally having a change of heart?
Yes.
Got him.
I've watching this season specifically, you can tell how troubled he's been in general. Like, just like, oh, I don't know who I am. If I'm not this, I don't know who I am. And then he's like, okay, well, hold on. Like, even if I can't run, I can use my platform for good, right? He still does horrible things early on, but as soon as his brother goes down, and he really tried to help, and he's like, this is the best I can do. I can get this apology, and it is what it is. But when Blue Hawk does what he does, he goes, okay, I have to do more. Like, I have to do more. And when it comes down to it, he makes the decision, like, at any and all costs, this is justice. I'm going to kill this guy. Totally worth it in the sense of fuck Blue Hawk, that literal tool, because there's a tool company called Blue Hawk. Makes me laugh so hard every time I think about it. Shout out Construction for teaching me that. But he has I can do what I always define myself as. B, now that I have these powers, no one can really mess with me the same way. So I'm really wondering where he's about to go, especially considering like not 2 or 3 scenes later, Starlight puts Homelander on blast. A-Train does not like Homelander. A-Train doesn't really like anybody.
Right.
And it seems like, you know, maybe I'm always hoping for a redemption arc for somebody. And, you know, I thought it happened last week. I thought they were going Star Wars with us. Redemption arc, kills the guy. Good job, A-Train. Oh, no, you're dying. All right, Ben Solo. Sorry, buddy. But now he's back. He's not even a Force Ghost. He's real legitimate in the game. And I'm hoping he just doesn't become another pawn for Vought. And I mean, it seems like this could be it. You know, his issue might not even be with Homelander anymore, right? Like, oh, I don't like Homelander. Now it's like, yo, fuck Vought, fuck Ashley, especially with how racist she was being with him. Like, A-Train's back, baby. Like, that's what you say? All right, whatever. And it's like, dude, what?
God,
like, you're losing it, man. And he just sits there with like basically gritting his teeth, just like, I kind of want to die. I kind of want to kill everybody. I kind of want to just lay here and do nothing. Like, it's very intriguing where A-Train is about to go. And it's like it's a top 3. Like, okay, what's going to happen with this little simple side story? He's had mostly, I think, max of 3 scenes in an episode. all season, and they are crushing it every time.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the actor's name. I want to say his name is Jesse. First name is Jesse. Fucking crushing it, man. Like every single scene, his eyes, the way he grits his teeth, it's beautiful. I love it, man. I love what they're doing with A-Train, and I love his acting.
Yeah, I've loved A-Train way more than I thought I would this season. I think that's been a constant struggle that I've pretty much brought up weekly, is like, do I hate A-Train? Do I love A-Train? I love this ride they're taking us on with him. And it's funny because it still feels so separated from the main narrative of this show right now. Even though it was directly intertwined with Herogasm, it still felt like a side story, and they just happened to be there. So it's interesting how they're going to pull him back into like the main spotlight relative to the Seven and to the boys, because everything that's going on right now has little to no consequence on the boys of what's going on with A-Train, except for the run-in he had with Huey. So
Right.
Where he apologized, like he had a change of heart in that moment.
Is a huge, literally, as we saw that change of heart start to take place before it literally happened on an operating table. Like A-Train is coming to terms with everything. You can see the process, the gears turning, you know?
But A-Train now knows that Huey's dosing, or he knows something is up with Huey, right? Because he says, didn't you break your arm? And then Starlight says, you got to get out of here. You got to leave. We get no resolution on that.
Well, and he punched him too.
Right. So A-Train
and he said, how did you do that? Yeah. Yeah,
So
because he felt that punch, you know?
I'm curious which way A-Train will go if
You
he
know what
knows.
I would love? I would love an A-Train versus Huey fight, or
teleporting versus a speedster. That'd be cool.
Yeah, like I would love, like if they go on a race, that would be cool. Like A-Train's gonna run to the finish line and Huey's gonna teleport. Who gets there first? That is, as someone with an engineering degree who loves science and physics, genuinely would love to know how that would play
They
out.
could actually do that and make fun of, you know how they've been poking fun at comic book IPs and everything in the real world. They could totally mimic that closing scene from Justice League with Flash and Superman.
Oh my God.
That race that they have. They could totally do that. Oh, wow. That would be hilarious. But Huey just shows up naked at the finish line, and A-Train's like, yeah, I would love to see them spin something like that. But
why am I naked?
A-Train and Huey, they're definitely keeping, because that's how it all started. We always come back to that.
Yeah.
It's Huey versus A-Train, Huey versus the Seven. And it's really cool to see that they've brought that full circle, and that when A-Train offered that apology, Huey realized in his heart, like, that's not enough for me. Like, I thought I'm sorry would be good enough, and now that I have it, it's not enough.
Wow, that directly mirrors what A-Train tried to do with his company with his community with Blue Hawk too.
Yeah,
like an apology, and they're like, apology's not enough, man. No, absolutely not. What about my son that you killed, etc.? Oh man, what a
and they both had consequences, right? A-Train's brother gets hurt, and A-Train gets punched. Those are the consequences, and there's always something on the other end. Yeah,
this show, man. This show has Stranger Things. This show and Stranger Things, and the way that they write and the way that it's laid out it's epic. It's genuinely epic. Let's talk about the
one
worst
scene from A-Train, and we just spent 15 minutes on it.
we spent more time talking than he's on screen. Like, that's beautiful. That's how good it is. Let's talk about fucking Todd.
Oh,
he's a Todd, honestly.
Todd. What a great name for this character. He's the most Todd you could ever Todd. So for those who don't know, Todd is Mother's Milk's daughter's the new stepdad, basically. He's kind of taken over the dad role and the husband role in MM's family, and they've kind of forced him out. MM finds out that not only did Todd attend a Homelander rally, he took MM's daughter with him, and they were within 50 feet of Homelander. And as soon as MM sees this, he storms over to the house right as Todd is pulling into the driveway with his daughter. As he's getting out of the car, MM's already at the car door saying, "We need to talk. Get the fuck out of the car." And he tells his daughter, "Go inside." And Todd gets out and starts spewing all this very familiar nonsense about fake news and the establishment media and the rumors about Starlight's orphanage, really being a front for child trafficking, you know, just spewing all this nonsense that he got from his TV. And when is questioning what they're lying to you, and the guy goes, really, they're all lying? And says, yeah, we get a really funny commentary about very real world stuff, but also the state that the world is in within the boys universe. Like, yeah, all the media is lying. Like it's like that is actually happening. And when Todd refuses to keep his daughter away from Homelander, when he says, you know, this is good for her, this is good for her life, realizes, like, I'm her dad, and I think this isn't good for her life. And he finally snaps and decks Todd right as his daughter comes back outside to see. And I don't remember the exact line, but the reason he punched him was because he said, I'm her father. Or he said, you're not her father. And Todd goes, someone needs to be. Yeah. And that's when snaps and clocks him in the face right as she's walking back outside. Turns to look at her, and she's standing there. She grabs her arm, and she's like, she's scared of him. And he realizes, man, I fucked up. Like, man, the situation I'm in, I cannot catch a break. And he's spiraling further and further downward, all the while still trying to do what he believes is the right thing. And he's just, you see how much of a victim of his circumstances he's become, and how he literally cannot make the right move. I love the development we've gotten on his family. Thomas, I know you have too. What did you take away from this scene?
What I took away was, holy shit, I really am I would have decked that guy. So I would have tried to break his nose straight up. I wouldn't have like knocked him out. I would have went straight for a bone break. But what the thing that I took away is that the mother is like, you took her there without asking me? No, that is not okay. Like, that is wrong. And you see, is actually in the right here, but then he goes too far. So as right as you can be, you can still cross that line of morals that he's been talking to Butcher about. And it's a much smaller scale. Like, I mean, it's the tiniest of scale without powers, but he could not keep himself from that line. And it's a beautiful juxtaposition. And if I'm being honest, in this case, I'm not mad at Like, that was a line to get punched by. Yeah. Like, I'm not a father.
Todd had it coming. Like, I don't think anyone is siding with him right now.
No.
Yeah. And it just shows too, like, even said, like, you know, where is our moral line at? Like, you cannot cross that line. That line is never hard and fast. That line is constantly moving, and it's always drawn in the sand, depending on your situation or anything that's going on around you. There's another moment that's, I believe in the episode prior, where goes to pick up Janine to go to, like, kind of the science fair or the science museum, and there is some Homelander kind of propaganda on the TV, and he sees that she's playing with a bunch of Homelander product and toys, and there's two really key instances in that. One is when Todd is like, oh, like, if you friend me on Facebook, I'll send you a lot of great information. And it's like, cool. That's like your fucking red flag. Biggest red flag number one is sending news articles on Facebook. And number two is when he is basically, you know, well, you know, he's like, whoa, you know, cool it around the kid. And is like, this is not a kid. This is my daughter. And I think that is really important too. We've had a really great buildup to this kind of breaking point for He's back to his OCD ways. We see him shaking his shaker a certain amount of times and doing certain things and wiping the couch before he sits down, and all meaning he's regressed as kind of this person that he has been trying to escape from and get away from. I'm really intrigued by his storyline, and I think his storyline is what keeps the show feeling very grounded. It is the most grounded storyline of anything that we're getting, because it's directly related to family. It has no suit powers. It's not I mean, it is politicized, but it's not dealing with Vought specifically, or seeking retribution. It is strictly about him trying to be the best father he can, while dealing with so much shit around him. And I think it's really intriguing.
Yeah, I think the side story, and it is a side story in nature. It doesn't feel that way because it's so pivotal to character and where he is in this journey with the boys. And Thomas, I love that parallel you brought up of that line in the sand, both of you guys, how you're talking about how this lines up exactly with the conflict he's in with Butcher right now, where he thinks Butcher has taken things too far, but then we see MM in his own right taking things as far as he thinks they need to go, and then realizing the consequences would say otherwise. But Todd is. I hope we see less of him. I really hope that this kind of makes the whole family turn around. I know it's a bad spot for MM's daughter, but I have to imagine his wife or ex-wife or whatever they are now has to see where he's coming from and see what this is doing to him, because after everything, she is the one that didn't give him permission, but did give him the validation, like, you need to go after Soldier Boy, this is for who you are and what you've been through. You need this, and I know that I can't stop you. This is who you are. But yeah, so Ethan, I know we've kept you longer than we said we would already. I want to get into the Black Noir stuff because I really want to know your opinion on that. And then we're going to talk about the huge cliffhanger at the end. So Black Noir, in the last episode, he found out Soldier Boy's on the loose and he ran off scared, cut out his tracker. We didn't know where he was going. We didn't even know if he was scared or if he was going after Soldier Boy. We had no inclination of what he was up to. And we catch up with him in this episode, and he visits an old abandoned, what looks like a knockoff, like Chuck E. Cheese type situation, where he clearly has some sort of childhood memory. But then they take it one step further, and we see that Black Noir's imagination brings all of these two-dimensional cartoon characters out of the woodwork, and they start helping him process where his mind is in that moment. And at first, you think that it's because, of all the trauma he's been through. We saw earlier in this season that he was a victim of what we thought was an explosion that caused some serious cranial damage. But we find out in this scene that damage that's done to his head is actually done by Soldier Boy. And Soldier Boy beat the living shit out of Black Noir when he found out that his team had turned on him. And Black Noir, the way that he is, and probably the reason he can't speak anymore, is because of Soldier Boy. And these little 2D animated characters are walking him through all of this trauma that Soldier Boy put him through. Even before that moment where they sold him out, we see that Soldier Boy was basically alpha mailing the entire team. And when Black Noir was looking for opportunities to grow in his superhero career, Soldier Boy was stopping it, saying, "No, I'm the guy. I'm the top dog. How dare you try to step on my turf and become, your own, person?" And I thought that these animated characters were like a result of that brain damage. It turns out these characters have been helping Black Noir his entire life. They reference stuff from when he was a kid, saying, "Hey, remember when we helped you get through what was it, something in like the second grade or I don't remember exactly what the memory was, but they basically said, we've been with you your whole life. We've gotten you through everything, including all this stuff with Soldier Boy. We can help you through this too." Ethan, all those animated characters coming up out of the woodwork. Where was your head when all of that was taking place? What did you think was going on? And how did you end up liking this sequence? Did you like how it was animated and that we didn't actually see those characters in live action like we've been seeing?
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly inventive way to storytell, like what's going on with Nowhere. Obviously, we get a huge backstory to him, and we understand like these characters have been with him for a really long time now. And I think it adds so much, and I just love the unique storytelling kind of device of this. Everything doesn't need to be live action, because as we've seen, sometimes live action is not the truth. It's not actually the way the memory went down. And so getting something that is true to Black Noire's memories is important. And we see him kind of turn on these characters initially. Like, he does not want to talk to them. He doesn't want to hear what they are trying to tell him and walk down kind of this memory lane. I think as a more like kind of holistic story for Black Noir, I think that's where we're going with the finale, right? We're only getting 8 episodes. So I think that is kind of where he knows that Soldier Boy is coming. He knows Soldier Boy will find out that he sold him out in Nicaragua. He knows that he is the one to blame for what is going on right now. And I think that's going to be our big blow up. And I think it's really impressive to take someone that, like you, Thomas, thought was gone, didn't even remember that was a character, and pull them back in and say, no, this was a pivotal character in keeping Soldier Boy alive and causing everything that we know is happening. And he is such a unique character as it is too. So I think the animation goes right along with that. I thought it was really fun. And I always love when shows kind of step outside that box. Like The Boys does that constantly, but the animation aspect was like, oh, sick. Like things just get weirder. Sounds good. Like I'm already on board.
It was really cool. And especially how it was all like cartoon animals too. Like Soldier Boy, wasn't he just like a buff like eagle? Like,
yeah.
And Black
eagle.
Noir was like a black sheep, which I thought was really creative.
Really smart.
But yeah, I absolutely adored how they were willing to take that much of a risk in this live action show. You know, like that's a huge step out of the box to take. And it was so natural to the story. And even though they hadn't taught us much about Black Noir until this season, it really felt like it fit. Like they made it feel like, oh, this is natural. This is a natural progression for this character. It actually explains a lot about where he's coming from and how he processes things, you know, not being able to communicate with people, you know, normally.
What I really loved about this is we, the audience, finally got to understand Black Noir, and it was one of the most creative ways to teach us about Irving. And I mean, it was beautiful, it was haunting, it was traumatic, and it was very like wholesome in some ways. Like he's literally just a kid, and he's always been a kid. And then when he got hit in the head, it just regressed him even more. They say you've always lived in fear, and then they say, you know, being brave isn't having no fear. Being brave is having fear and doing it anyway. And it's like, oh my God, like that's brilliant. That's something that Huey needs to be told, right? And essentially that's what he's been doing. But I love that we do see the why, right? We see the fight of them trying to take down Soldier Boy and TNT twins activate and, you know, all that good stuff. And everyone gets knocked out basically by Soldier Boy, and it's Black Noir versus Soldier Boy. And he gets his head smashed into a flaming Jeep, which burns everything off and then just shield right into the brain over and over and over, which comes back later on with Mindstorm, and it just caves that guy's head in. So it's like, okay, well, like maybe Black Noir is a lot stronger than even we thought. Maybe even he thought. But it harkens back to that scene we saw Black Noir and Edgar in the in Nicaragua in the 80s, that when I can't remember her name right now, Grace was talking about that story. And in live action, it picks up with, please don't eat those in front of me, you know I'm allergic, and he eats an almond anyway. We get the lead up to that, which is, well, why does Vought want me to do this? Because Vogelbaum has, what is it? Vogelbaum has another. It's just a baby right now, just a kid, but we think he'll be stronger than Soldier Boy, and he can fly. And, you know, if with him out of the picture, you can do all these things that you want to do. It's like, okay, cool. Well, why is that relevant? Because at the very end, Mindstorm tells Soldier Boy some information that we don't know until Soldier Boy calls Homelander and drops in in the 70s or 80s. He went and just, you know, beat himself into a cup, if you know what I'm saying. A little sperm donation.
He still remembers the issue. I thought that was such a funny way to lead into this. He's like, I still know the issue, and he calls out the model too, which is
he knows exactly what he was watching.
Soldier Boy.
And he's like, that was great. And then he's like, and then there was a little boy born in 1981, and he's like, you know, the funny thing is, I would have been okay with giving up my team. What father wouldn't want that for his son? And it ends, and Homelander just like
crazy,
like, okay, like, oh my. And then that's when you realize, oh, Soldier Boy and Homelander are very similar. It's because they're literally father like son, and the way that they handle their fear is very different. And I cannot wait for Soldier Boy to call Homelander a pussy, and then that just leads to a knockout, drag out fight, man. So what do we think about Soldier Boy's baby? Turns out it's Homelander.
Dude, it's
Ethan, go
wild.
for it, man.
Dude, it is absolutely wild. That is one of the biggest bombs that you could drop. Like, after establishing how siloed and strong Homelander is, and how much he cares about himself and how he's the one-man show. And he even goes on to say in this episode, like, yeah, it's lonely at the top. I know, I experience it, but I am the one, and maybe Edgar was right. Maybe I shouldn't have taken over Vought. Maybe I shouldn't have become Vought. All of these things that relate to how important he is as a singular person. And now to have his world opened up to say, oh shit, like, I'm a son, and my dad is Soldier Boy, who just almost tried to kill me or depower me, is incredible. It is really something that I think is going to be a massive event on like a huge scale when they finally do kind of come together and, you know, exchange words, which is something I didn't say, or, you know, we haven't really touched on, but this show, especially these last couple episodes, every single thing really that is meaningful about exchanges between heroes and soups comes from conversation. It does not generally come from battling. It is not a battle of power or strength. It is a battle of absolutely abusive, tormenting words and conversations, which I think is really important to note. So I think things will go in a similar fashion. I was freaking out. I was just gobsmacked, and I was like, shit, now that I'm caught up, I got to wait a week to figure out what's going to happen, which I'm not used to.
Yeah. I think that little cliffhanger made a lot of people go, whoa, like, this is awesome, you know, like, and it's even gone as far, like, I'm seeing a lot of people say, like, oh, this might be the best episode they've done so far. And I think they've done better in some spots, specifically with like the season 1 and 2 finales. I think we're more a little bit above that. But I mean, those are finales. Like, those are like, they're supposed to be that, you know, they're supposed to leave you in that spot where you have to wait till next season. And that's going to be what pulls you back for the next, you know, batch of episodes. And they did that with the episode before the finale for this season. So I don't know what we're going to get, you know, going forward, because even with this huge revelation, we don't get a better idea we don't have any idea how Homelander is going to respond to this, because you just mentioned the mirror monologue that he had, the Green Goblin type scene where he's got that inner conflict and he's trying to rip, you know, carve that human part of him right out. Having a dad is kind of a human thing, you know, he's probably going to have to wrestle with, oh, I have a dad, but I shouldn't have a dad. That's going to make me more human, and that's going to make me weaker, and that's going to make me rely on someone other than myself. And he might hate that, but at the same time, it might be the one thing that he's always been searching for, is someone that can guide him, someone that can truly relate to who he is, because we see how drawn he is to Butcher. And although it's because of conflict, it's because they're so similar too. So yeah, I think that this little cliffhanger they gave us is on that level of, like, you know, season 1 finale, season 2 finale, you know, and to think of where they're going to go with this in the next 60 minutes of this show, and how they're going to leave us hanging for the 4th season, which by the way is confirmed to start filming in August. I have no idea how Homelander is going to respond to this. And I think that might be the most enticing element here, is not so much they have that relationship, but how Homelander is going to process it.
I think leading into a season 4, real quick, I think the smartest thing that you could do is have a square up, or like a face off, and put either Black Noir and Soldier Boy, or Soldier Boy, Black Noir, and Homelander all in the same room, a la Herogasm. It takes place in one room, and very exciting, exhilarating thing that we see. But you place them in a similar location, and you cut the season, because that means that you're opening the season with the most anticipated kind of come together battle that we've had yet. And that automatically ropes people back in for a new season. Plus, it adds to the speculation of, like, oh shit, now that everybody's in the same room, what is going to happen? Are we going to exchange words first? Are we just going to start coming to blows? Who's going to attack Hugh? Like, are Hugh and Butcher going to show up? Is Kamiko back with her power? Like, it opens the door for so many questions. That's the finale. I don't think it's going to happen, but in my head, if you got a final scene where you're like, oh shit, all these people are in a room together, that's chef's kiss right there. Anyway,
Man.
sorry, TCR, go ahead, man.
Wow.
I had to get that
I
in there
was-
before we go.
I was literally gonna wrap this with I have no idea what's gonna happen in this next episode. Every
I want
time I
that
think
now.
every time I think something's gonna happen, they do something entirely different. So this episode ended, and I was like, I got nothing. All I know is I'm here and I'm ready for next week. And E, my man, I hope that's exactly what happens because you just blew my mind
Fingers crossed.
there. And I think there's no better way to end this segment on the boys because that was fucking chef's kiss. You can tell you just binged this whole season.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
deep. I am really into this. Yeah, I've got it. It's first thing. It's living in my dreams, man. I'll tell you. I am obsessed.
Dreams are nightmares.
Yeah.
Ethan, where can everyone find you on social media and 15 Minutes Marvel and A24?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the pod, guys. This was a blast. Honestly, I always look forward to coming on the show. You can find me on Twitter or on TikTok, actually at Ethan Simmie. I'm talking about movies all the time, so go give me a follow on there. Podcast 15 Minutes of Marvel comes out every Friday, talking about the latest in the MCU in 15-ish minutes. Go check that out wherever you get your podcasts, and on Twitter at 15 Minute Marvel. And then same thing with 24 Minutes of A24. Ben Longhorn, my co-host, and I, we talk about an A24 project every single week. And same thing, you can find us on Twitter at 24 Minutes of A24 or wherever you get your podcasts. We have an interview with the composer of the new Marcel the Shell with Shoes On movie coming out next week on our pod. And then we'll be talking about Marcel the Shell the week after. So yeah, go check out those pods. TCR, JRB. Thanks so much for having me on the pod, boys. Always a pleasure.
Dude, we love it. I absolutely love talking about this show with you. I always knew that you would be the perfect person to bring on for the boys. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Any final prediction you have for the finale? Anything you want to see happen other than that huge, amazing idea that you just dropped on us that I'm probably going to take and run with and be disappointed with anything else they give us. But what do you want to see in the finale?
Yeah, I might have set all of us up for failure, honestly, because if it doesn't end like that, I don't know what we're gonna do. In terms of any other storylines, I would kind of like to see. I think an interesting direction for Starlight would be to essentially have Homelander getting her canceled, essentially, and like losing all of her social media influence. I think that would be really interesting because that would pull her down to a level that she is not familiar with and she has not been on, and how she would climb her way out of that hole, knowing that she has nobody else around her to protect her, especially that fame other than Huey and the boys, would be a really interesting character study for her. How morally gray is she willing to get when her fame is gone, when her social influence is gone, and she is not America's sweetheart anymore? Because as we know, the mainstream media can turn on her in an instant and not listen to her. I think that would be interesting. But I got nothing else, man. I'm hyped. The finale comes out the first day that I am in Kauai, and you bet as soon as that plane lands, I am firing that. I'm going to the beach and I'm watching the boys. Big time.
Boys on the beach. I love it, man.
Boys.
I absolutely love it.
Ethan, before you get out of here, you know what? You're right, because now Big Daddy Soldier Boy is gonna be like, no, we've been on the same team the whole time, and then everyone's gonna shit on Starlight. That is so sad, man. Ethan, we got to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us on this special Sunday Fun Day version. We're happy we were able to get you on again this season of The Boys, because we were worried because we knew you were going out to watery pastures, if you will, man.
I'm glad we could get it on.
Man. Yes,
of course. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
My love to Molly. Y'all have fun on vacation, brother.
Thanks so much, guys. See you later.
Awesome.
Soldier Boy.
Yeah, man. Well, before we wrap up, we did mention Thor: Love and Thunder, but we didn't really get much time to talk about it. It is coming up in a few days, so if you do want to have our thoughts on it and our, gauge our hype levels for the fourth Thor movie in the MCU, you can check that out on Ethan Simmie's Patreon for 15 Minutes of Marvel. We recently joined him for his Thor: Love and Thunder primer episode, and we figured that would be a nice little way to get our thoughts out there and make some room for everything that's going on with the boys. But yeah, Thomas, I'm pretty pumped for Thor: Love and Thunder, aren't you?
So on Reckless Rebellion this week, shout out, wink wink, Matt Rimke came on, and we did the Skywalker Saga rewatch, starting with Phantom Menace. And I really shit on the fandom menace. I got super mad and ranted for a little bit about that and Lucasfilm making bad financial decisions, but it's okay. The moral of this story is we talked about Love and Thunder for like 3 minutes, and it was basically like he said, there's like 3 or 4 times in this movie, because he's already seen it, folks. He's like 3 or 4 times I'm watching this and I'm just going, Thomas is going to love this. Like, Thomas is going to love this so much. And I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, man. I'm pumped. I'm trying to avoid the social media. I saw a Valkyrie commercial for like traveling, and I was like, do I even watch this? Like, will this spoil anything? That's how paranoid I am for spoilers. And I saw something on the direct JRB, which is like, oh, this actress is being sued by a manager. And I'm like, oh, so now I know this actress is in the movie. That is genuinely depressing. So I might have to, I'm currently blocking all Stranger Things mentions in my Twitter because I haven't watched volume 2, but you know what I'm probably about to do? Spend 5.5 hours watching part 2 today. So I can get into it all. Cause I've heard from friend of the show, producer, OG Thunder buddy David Thompson, the man who never cries, said, I'm going on record to say the finale made me cry more than once. And I'm like, no, if David cries, I'm screwed. But Thor Love and Thunder, bro. Let's talk about next week real fast. Or the next show, this upcoming week. This is our show for this week, July 3rd through the July 9, basically. Next week, we got a lot to cover. We have Miss Marvel 5, The Boys finale, and Thor Love and Thunder. And I have no idea how we're going to pull this off, JRB.
We probably won't. We do have a lot coming up. I'm hoping that some of it will interconnect. If we did get a nice little overlap with Miss Marvel and Thor Love and Thunder, it would help our discussion, but it probably won't. I think I want to say Taika Waititi was asked if Thor Love and Thunder would deal with like alternate realms or the multiverse, and he was straight up like, no. He's like, this is going to be mainline MCU. We're just going to do what we've been doing for a decade now. So don't get your hopes up.
Well, I could argue, I had this question earlier, is realm and universe the same thing? I'm going to go with no, because as we know, the 9 realms are just worlds that Earth does not have access to, except for during the convergence, which then a portal on our planet opens to all of the other planets. So the Nor dimension, Talo, if you see where I'm going with this, we could get a new realm. And I mean, Gore's dark dimension, or not dark dimension, but the shadow realm is another realm. So we might get some overlap. And it's also very intriguing that we have a dark dimension, the Nor dimension. Nor means light. And then we have the shadow realm, which also kind of contradicts the Nor of it all. So there's a lot of fun things being sprinkled about here that I think tangentially will have connections. But yeah, I have no idea. On July 11th will be, as of this moment in time, our next show. I'm filming next weekend, so I'm 100%. I don't know when I'm going to watch The Boys. I'm probably going to watch Thor Love and Thunder Thursday night. I'm hoping The Boys drops early so I can watch that. And then wake up on Friday, go to work, and then I'm going to Pensacola that night with one of my scene partners, and we're gonna crash there and then film all weekend. So, it's gonna be a wild, fun time, dude. And yeah, man, like, what are you excited about coming up?
Definitely the finale of The Boys. I think I might be more looking forward to that than I am for Thor Love and Thunder.
I had a feeling you
would. Just because. With Thor Love and Thunder, I do have a lot of questions about it, but it does seem like it's just, or not just, I don't want to say just and minimalize it, but it does seem like it's an MCU adventure film, like the last Thor movie was, where it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to have heart. It's going to have comedy, and it's going to have some really weighted scenes that are going to have huge implications. But I don't see that movie doing anything for me in the MCU where it keeps me on the edge of my seat after we're done with it, I could be totally wrong about that. If Gore does end up sticking around past this film, I think that my opinion will definitely change on that.
Yeah.
But I'm so much more invested in The Boys right now because we've been watching it for 7 weeks straight, that I'm so excited to see what they're going to show us in this finale and how they're going to set up the events for season 4. Because we have no idea what season 4 was going to cover. Is Homelander going to snap? Is he going to do the whole scorched earth that has been teased this entire season? Is the plane video going to be revealed? And is Homelander finally going to be shown in his true light? Because he got close when Andy exposed him on Instagram. So if people don't believe that plane video might be all that's left. Yeah. So I'm much more excited to see where they're going to take us with that and what they're going to leave us with that last episode. What about you? What you're looking forward to working all weekend?
Yeah. Everybody's working for the weekend.
But by the time you get there, you'll have already seen Thor: Love and Thunder.
I will have seen the Miss Marvel, Thor: Love and Thunder, and The Boys. Because if I don't get to see The Boys Thursday night before I go to work Friday, you bet your sweet little bottom I'm waking up early Friday to watch The Boys before I go to work, so I can peruse Twitter and tweet about it all day.
Exactly.
I can't lie. Like it's not even fair. I'm definitely more excited for Thor: Love and Thunder overall, but when it comes to the plot and the story and the stakes and just the drama, when it comes to the drama, I am far more excited for The Boys than anything else, because there's so many layers, and we know going in, like we've got these weekly buildups, right? That's why I kind of like TV a little bit more. I like long form narratives, right? As you can tell, we're long winded here on LightsThunderAction, so of course I like I like to be able to live in that world a little longer. The Boys finale, season 3, I don't really know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be absolutely batshit crazy, I assure you. And it's gonna end on a weird place, and that's how I'm gonna wrap my week basically before I go and do my job and act, man, and take all of these things that I love and just fuel my creativity inside of me. We have a huge week coming up, dude. Like it's a great week for content, and I'm very, very excited. JRB, where can everyone find you on social media?
You can head over to Twitter and find me at JRB_direct. I feel like I'll probably have a lot to say this week. So if you want to fire back and we can talk Miss Marvel, Thor: Love and Thunder, or even The Boys, I'm down for any and all of it. So hit me up.
Yes, you can find me on pretty much all social medias. Now I changed my Instagram so it matches. TCRochesterACT. That is TCRochesterACT. That's my Instagram, my Twitter, and also like my Linktree. So like go check it all. Go check it all out. JRB, what recommendations for the audience, or what do you have coming up that you're wanting to watch that you wanna shout out?
Recommendations. I just watched District 9 for the first time. I know I hadn't seen it, and everyone was hyping it up, and I was like, wait, is this movie really that good? I finally watched it. Might be one of the best movies I've ever watched. I really enjoyed it. It's got a really gripping story. It's a super unique take on like an alien invasion, where it's really more like a problem, like an inconvenience and like a political nightmare than it is like a physical problem for people. I love the commentary that they have on like real world politics and how things, would truly be handled by world governments if something like that happened, and how terribly we'll handle it. Because we're not good at anything. But yeah, I know it's from like 2009, but I finally turned it on for the first time, and it was a really, really fun watch. So if you haven't seen District 9 yet, if you are like me and we're somehow missing out on it, my friend again, David Nestor, thanks so much for sticking around with us, man. Yeah, man. He's saying that District 9 we're right, it's so underrated. They even left it at a point where I thought maybe they could make a sequel, and so I'm kind of surprised that I haven't heard much about that. But District 9. If you haven't seen it somehow, go check it out.
If you like District 9 and the commentary, that's really a commentary on how humans treat each other. Like they're basically in not death camps, but they're in concentration camps,
Right.
And you take that and the commentary on the politics of the situation, the commentary on racism, of the situation. They are an entirely different race and species, so it like really plays up on it in the same way that X-Men does with mutants and humans, right? Go watch, because it's also, that movie is like a little bit of a mind fuck, kind of cased inside of a really, really good action film. Go look at Sorry to Bother You, which is very good commentary on corporations and politics and how they want to run your lives and paying off debts and what they'll do to you, and that, you know, and then racism and I can't say any more without spoiling the plot, but it was it was the twist, the biggest twist in a movie I might have ever seen, because I was just like, wait, what are they doing? Oh my god.
Oh wow, this looks like a great cast too.
Oh dude, it's
Lakeith Stanfield and Tessa Thompson with Terry Crews, Patton Oswalt, David Cross, Stephen Yeun. Oh, Armie Hammer. Oh wow, there's a lot of people in this.
Legitimately stacked to the brim with great
Rosario Dawson voices someone too. Oh, love that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I gotta check that out.
I'm telling you, that movie is insane. My recommendation for all of you is Stranger Things Volume 2. I don't know what to tell you about it. Except I'm literally going to be hopping off here and throwing that on, because I'm very excited for that. Quick promotion. I forgot to mention, you should go listen to the Direct podcast, because I was also on another podcast this past week. In the past 7 days, JRB, I have done 5 podcasts. This show twice, Reckless Rebellion Thursday night, which, if you want to know a fun fact, I sent you the video. Last week, we planned a 90-minute show. This week, we planned a 90-minute show. Reckless Rebellion, we planned a 90-minute show. Last week, 2.5 hours for both shows. Like, literally 2 hours, 35 minutes, 20-something seconds. Like, to the T, the exact same amount of recording time. It blew my mind. But I was on the Direct podcast, and we did a draft of the best Thor moments. I'm going to tap myself on the back. My only sadness here is that my percentage went up on this vote. I was Team A. David was Team B, and Matt Rimke was Team C. And all I'm going to say is go listen to it to understand who's like the moments that are on each team. I won by a pretty large landslide. I like to think that I was born for that draft. So shout out for character moments. But I won with 67%, which really upset me, because I was 1% away from execute order 66%. When I voted for it, I was at 66%. So shout out to that. Shout out Matt Rimke and David Thompson, who is the new co-host for the Direct podcast. We love you, David. Man, we started this show 26 months ago, David and I, and now he's straight up getting paid. He's getting paid. Living in the shade, man. Oh, thank you, David. He says, "'Twas a good draft, to be fair." I love the use of "'twas." Shout out, man. That's my Ren Fair vibes coming out. Yes, Gramercy. It's very in sooth what he said. But guys, gals, and non-binary pals, we've reached the end of the show. As always, there could be no show without the Iron Man variant. To my left, world-famous journalist John Ross Bradford, bringing a much-needed eloquence and wit to this show. Thank you to Terry McIver for this great coffee mug design. You can get that at our shop. It's in our Linktree, linktree.com/LightsThunderAction. And David Thompson for their work behind the scenes along the way, supporting us, hopping in here with the comments. Thank you to the HWWS WebTV family for supporting us and carrying us on the network. Most importantly, thank you to our fans that join us weekly. David and Nestor hanging out with us all morning long. We really appreciate that. Whether you are watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or listening via Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, or Spotify, we appreciate you spending your time with us.
Yes, we do. And please like, follow, subscribe, drop us a comment, leave us a review, preferably the variety of 5 stars. Only, of course, if you think we are worthy.
Worthy. As you know, Thor, God of Thunder, still worthy. As always, I'm TCR.
And I'm JRB.
Thank you for joining Sunday Fun Day Edition, episode 91. Again, shout out my birth year of LTA. We'll see you next time. Cow.